Sometimes, because of the perception, folks just think, you can just be focused on technical and getting the work done without actually spending time to build, a good rapport and network with people you work with. It's important that people who you work with enjoy working with you, right? On one end, they know that you deliver, but on the other end, they know that, you don't take yourself too seriously, right? It's important. And it's what do we sell in from banking to finance? It's not concrete. It's intangible, right? So people, want you to demonstrate value, but they want to work with a nice guy, right? They want to work with a nice lady. If you make work painful for people, despite being able to deliver, people would avoid and rather work with another technical. Remember, there are several people, right? So there will be a great technical guy, a good client guy, and a nice guy or a nice lady. And, that person might not be that technical, but is nicer and good with clients, and he will get staffed on those roles, right? So it's important that, you're not, you don't take yourself too seriously, but you take the work you do very seriously and you take your clients very seriously. Right? It's okay to have a laugh. It's okay, as you say, you need to be empathetic and personable to actually succeed. And I think we've kind of, moved into what actually, takes you from your first promotion to being, a manager, right? You obviously need to build relationship and trust of your colleagues and clients, right? Clients give you business because, they're looking at several pitch books, right? And it's perhaps, if you rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, most of those pitch books would be between, I'll say, 6 and a 9, right? And some clients will say, "Oh, I've enjoyed working with this person. I've known this person. He understands me. He understands my style," and that's where relationship comes through. Same thing, you're working with a partner. You're a mid-level senior associate or a junior VP, or you're even a director level. But you've had a pleasant working relationship with a partner or with an MD in the firm, right? And they've pretty much known that for you to be where you are, you've actually demonstrated a fair bit of technical capabilities and also client engagement, right? But them just actually knowing you and being able to interact with you is actually what would put you in good stead when your name is being discussed in rooms that you're not there, right? I think sometimes people get focused on, I'll let my work speak for myself. But I kind of advise against that, right? Knowing what I don't know now, right? Sometimes you need to, talk about your jobs, talk about what you did over the weekend, talk about, be comfortable to say, I actually didn't work this weekend, right? This is what I did. I played, football. I saw my nieces. I did this, right? It's important, right? But I'm not telling you to, go a wall for 4 days and come back and say, you went to Miami to play golf, right? You have to make sure that you've done the job, but have a life, right? Because people can relate to the softer side of people. You never know what interests you share, and then that gets picked up. But my advice is, obviously the first 1, 2, 3 years, your get knee deep in knowing what you were employed for, first of all. As a first year, second year analyst, I wouldn't advise you trying to network or chit chat with a partner or an MD. Just put your head down and get the job done. But as you get more senior, you're giving more responsibilities, you're in charge of relationships. It's very, very important that you build a rapport with senior management. You might need to get a mentor, you might need to get a sponsor, but people like to sponsor or mentor people that they can also learn from, right? What I've found is, it's two ways, right? Sometimes we're looking for mentors or sponsors to grab, right? But, it can be lonely high up there, right? And people are also looking for, people below them that they can also, get insights from, right? You might be a millennial, the guy is in his 50s, not a millennial, but he wants to understand how millennials think to actually improve himself. So, I think that relationship and, bilateral feedback, and you can never underestimate the value of having a mentor or a sponsor that is vested in you, but knows that, despite, or if he was not vested in you, you were going to succeed nonetheless, right? Because at the end of the day, the person wants to be involved in your success. And if you give them a reason to see that you're getting there and they can just do little to help you out there, you'll be a good candidate if, there was a large pool of mentees for them to choose from. Zanele, perhaps you can, top and tail. I think it was a mouthful, but maybe.
No. And I think, look, I keep saying it, but 100% agree with all the points made. I love the point about mentorship. I think that's really important, both formal mentorship, and I would encourage people to lean into the mentorship programs that are available. I mean, I think a lot of corporates in these days offer, I know certainly IFC has sort of a formal mentorship program. And to the extent that you're able to plug in and just make sure what you're trying to get out also makes sense for the person you're asking to get in, to get advice from. But also informal mentorship. And this is a space that I think, even as Africans, and it kind of ties into the second point I wanted to make, but even as Africans, I think we sometimes don't lean in, and not to speak generically, I mean, but my impression is that we don't, and I speak to myself as well, we are not maybe awake to the power of informal networks as well. And I think LinkedIn has really opened up a world where you can see a profile that is inspirational and you can hit the person up. And for the most part, there are two outcomes there that you're faced with. I mean, the first is that you won't get a response, and that's fine. But actually, the upside is that the person could respond, and what you then do with that instant connection is up to you. But I think where we could really start leaning in on is, number one, identifying, people who are in the industry that you think are inspiring and that you think you would benefit from engaging. And then the second piece is, what do I do with this? So this person has accepted me on LinkedIn. How do I move in? And I think that's the piece that I think we could all maybe just do a bit better. We really literally have a platform of millions that we can plug into. And I think it's now a question of, let's hit up the people. And I myself do that, frankly. And the second point I wanted to make, and it's sort of related to the first point, CJ, is just around the idea of self-promotion, which doesn't always sit easy. But coming back to the question of, how do I move up the ranks, right? And yes, there is a point where you really do need to keep your head low and just focus on execution, and hopefully your work will speak for itself. But eventually, once you're in a pool of people doing exactly the same thing, there is an element of actually self-promotion that will be needed. And I spent a couple of years in the States. A lot, as I mentioned, my career sort of spanned various continents. And so I spent, some time in the UK and then some time in the States. And one thing I absolutely love, and I know this is a controversial opinion because not everyone agrees with it, but one thing I'm in awe of in terms of American culture is just the ability and sort of the comfort with self-promotion. So to say, hi, my name is Zanele. I've done X, Y, Z, and this is absolutely why I think I'm deserving of this. And in a non-apologetic way, in a way that's not sort of conditional on like, yes, I'm good, but I also understand if you don't think I'm good. It's just sort of an unwavering confidence and ability to show that I belong here. And not only do I belong here, but I am of the opinion that I belong at the next level. And so this is something I find so fascinating, and I could read books and books and books about this, because I think it's so important really for us to just really have a higher level of comfort around self-promotion. And I think especially as young African professionals, there isn't enough of that going on. And I think there are a whole lot of drivers for that, CJ. I mean, that's a conversation for another day, maybe. But I would encourage everyone just to not shy away from being very clear in the workplace what your expectations are. And if you need to take it to the director, take it to the director. Obviously, there's a nuanced way of doing this, right? So no one wants to be addressed with a laundry list of, this is what I want, and this is why I won't accept anything less than that. I mean, that's never going to work for anyone in any professional setting. But I think just that clarity of mind for yourself, but also communicating that with your seniors that, look, guys, I've been at this level for 4 years. I think I've done a really good job. Look at my 360, it supports this. My execution supports this. And this is why I think you should be considering me for the next level. I think that conversation is something we can all do better at.
Yes, and I couldn't agree more, right? I think, maybe just to add another phrase, when you say, this is me, and I actually feel that I'm the best person for the role. I think what the Americans, as you rightly said, do well is, add on another layer to say you'll be making a big mistake if you don't consider me for the role, right? And that's not being arrogant, right? That's being, comfortable in your own skin and knowing, I'll do a good job. From a technical perspective, quantitative, qualitative, I tick the box, right? Because there hasn't been red flags. So it's either you've been lying to me in my appraisals, and haven't been a fair, it hasn't been a fair 360 process, or this is my time, right? And then people think about it, right? The worst that can happen, you wouldn't hear no, but you've sent a signal to management to say, guys, this is my time. And even if you don't get a yes, I bet in another year you'll get a yes, right? Because they're going to have conversations to say, do we want to lose this person to the competitor? But what I would always caution is it has to tie up, right? Your 360s and reviews can be, negative, and, you're asking for the next role, right? It just shows lack of self-awareness, right? People that are confident, like Zanele has said, they are also very self-aware, right? So I think taking that self-awareness and then layering it with some humility and confidence, not arrogance, but humility and confidence, is actually important, right? And it's actually, I think that is the trait that will, stand you out to not just being, getting into the room or getting the first promotion, but, get you to senior management and executive management, in my view.